Hey guys, Dave here, and I'm back again to review The Walking Dead once more, and this time it is on episode, I believe it is 10. We are now on episode 10 of season 4, entitled Inmates, as in the inmates within the prison after all that stuff happened in the mid-season finale. Now of course, spoilers are going to follow for the episode, but this episode at first started off as what I predicted the next episode to be after last week's episode, which is going to be catching up on another group of characters. And now that we got Michonne and Rick and Carl out of the way, we're going to focus on some other characters that escaped the prison. But boy, did they not hesitate at all to just bring in everybody. Everybody is in this episode, and I mean everybody, from the people that escaped the prison to people from earlier in the season to new characters that we've never seen before. Everybody is jam-packed into one 43-minute episode, which leads me to my number one complaint about this episode, and the number one reason why this episode is not as strong as last week's, and that is that we got all of these characters in this one episode, and because of that, there's almost no time to really get a good feel of what these characters have been going through and a really good dose of character development like we did in the previous episode with Michonne and with Rick and Carl. And out of those two, Michonne's development and the inside look into her past life was obviously my favorite. Here, there's almost none of that, so it's kind of tough to really connect with these characters because the entire episode is just like playing catch up. Oh, let's see what this character has done, or let's see what this character has been going through, and ever since that happened, it's just like, hey, what are they doing? Okay, let's move on. Let's see what they're doing. That's practically the entire episode. It was like this episode was the live-action version of The Walking Dead 400 Days DLC. And what was one of my problems with that DLC is the fact that it's only an hour and a half, and you got 5 characters to play as in that DLC. So because of that, you only spend about a good 15-20 minutes with each character, and you don't get attached to them as much as you did with Lee and Clementine. Same problem here. I thoroughly believe that they could have easily done a nice little 3, maybe even a 4 episode arc and just focus on a group of characters per episode. That way you can give them a proper sense of character development and at the same time really flesh them out. But instead, the episode is divided into 4. Now, among those 4 segments, I will say that my favorite will have to be Glenn. Glenn and that girl from the governor's army escaping the prison and encountering Abraham, which is a character that everybody was waiting to see, and he finally makes his grand appearance at the end of this episode. I gotta be honest, that one was my favorite because I really did get a feel for what Glenn was thinking in his head when he finally saw the picture of Maggie and saying, you know what? I'm not going to die in this prison. I'm not just going to whimper like a coward. I'm going to go and find her. And that's just very easy to connect with and relatable. So out of the segments, that would have to be my favorite. And the segments with Maggie and Sasha and Bob, there, I forgot his name. I was about to call him Ben. But them and with Daryl and Beth at the beginning, I thought their segments were okay, but they were really, really short that there was hardly any time to really get to have a chance to feel for them because they were there and they were gone immediately. I will say that there were some things about them that I really like. I really loved the intensity of that scene where Maggie didn't know if maybe Glenn was in that bus, and I really enjoyed the opening to this episode, having Beth narrating a letter that she was sending to somebody. I don't know who she was sending the letter to. Maybe some of you guys know. Maybe I just simply don't remember. But I really enjoyed her narration over her and Daryl escaping those walkers. I thought it was very, very symbolic. Very, I don't know, very Terrence Malick. I don't know if you guys know who Terrence Malick is, but if you guys have heard of that movie that recently came out a few years ago, The Tree of Life, he directed that. And he does those kind of very artsy kind of movies, and it felt like a very artsy approach to that opening, to the opening of this episode. So I really enjoyed that. But personally, I think my least favorite segment would have to be Tyrese and those girls and Judith. Yes, Judith is alive, so that answers that question. And we move on. And so I did enjoy that they went ahead and addressed the fact that they have a baby in the world of The Walking Dead, and babies are going to cry. what are you going to do when the baby won't stop crying? You have a tough time trying to figure out what the hell that baby wants in the real world. How about a world that is infested by zombies? So I really enjoyed it that this episode went ahead and touched that. Even to the point where one of the characters even tries to suffocate the baby, because me as an audience member, I was starting to feel like, baby, would you please shut up? But I know deep down inside, I'm not going to do anything to this baby. But that little girl went ahead and actually started to suffocate it. Her. And I actually did find that to be rather intense, but what really kind of flipped it over and made it one of my least favorite parts of that segment, and why it's my least liked segment out of the entire episode, would be that I never really saw those actresses, the little girls, as being bad actresses, because this whole time I've been defending them. And I remember watching some videos and reading some reviews about the episodes, and I particularly remember Christian Harloff from the Schmoes Knows. I don't know if you guys know about that YouTube channel and their thing. They talk about movies, TV shows, stuff like that. And Christian, who's one of the members of the Schmoes, would always give these little girls shit for being bad actresses. And this whole time I've been defending them, but it was in this episode where I was like, that was pretty terrible. So I felt a rather large disconnect because of these little girls' performances and because of how they were written in a way. I mean, when that little girl just took off after a freaking bird jumped out of the tree, that's where I'm like, But if you didn't think that this episode had already too many characters, guess what? You got one more. Carol has returned. Now, where the hell did she come from? We don't know. Maybe we'll find out. And she went ahead and lied to Tyrese about what she has been up to this whole time. So that whole secret about killing those two people, one of them being that girl that you were about to with, yeah, that's still up in the air. So we gotta have the proverbial shoe drop, hopefully later in the season. But don't get me wrong, that's gonna keep things interesting. So I do welcome the reappearance of Carol. I just hope that they treat it well and they explore it in a way that doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like it was just forced in there, like they just said, we gotta have something good about this episode that everyone's gonna be talking about, because I feel like they're all gonna talk about the fact that all of these characters are in this episode, like I'm doing right now. So let's go ahead and throw in Carol. I really hope that wasn't their intention and they actually have a plan behind Carol and a plan behind her re-emergence. And I really hope that they treat, like I said, the shoe dropping about her killing those two people, one of them being the girl that Tyrese liked, with care, because I really want to see how this thing goes. Plus, I did appreciate the writers bringing back that whole thing about what that voice on the radio was saying about those who arrive survive, and we might just get a glimpse of what that place, this place that the guy was talking about that's down the train tracks, is all about in future episodes. Overall, I didn't like this episode, but I did think it was a bit of a step backwards from last week because of the fact that they just went ahead and got all these characters out of the way within one episode. That only leaves me to wonder, what are they going to do in the preceding 6? I know that Abraham's going to have something to do with it, and who knows, maybe we'll have another character appear. But for the time being, I will say that this is not as great as last week's, and I do think that they missed a grand opportunity to flesh these characters out by having at least a good 3 or 4 episodes focusing on these different groups one after another. Just like they let those zombies out of the bus, one after another. Follow your advice, Walking Dead. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and give Inmates a 7 out of 10. I still liked it. I'm still looking forward to the next episode. But, man, they missed the ball in this one. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. And I'll be back next week with my review of episode 11. I'll see you then.